A mother that was desperately trying to escape a relationship. A husband who couldn't bear to see that happen. This is a story echoed throughout history, but today's story has a tragic ending. Hello and welcome to Worst Cases. Today, we will be discussing the story of Clay Waller, a man who wouldn't take no for an answer. Our condolences go out to the family and loved ones affected by this tragic story. The small town of St. Genevieve, Missouri, is a close-knit community of people with a population around 5,000. Right by the Mississippi River, it is the perfect place to raise a family. This is the town Jacque Waller would meet her perfect partner, Clay Waller. The two were inseparable, and after a period of time dating, they got married. Shortly after marriage, Jacque fell pregnant. She was ecstatic, but her family weren't so sure. Jacque's family had raised some concerns about Clay and him having an awkward demeanor, but Jacque brushed it off, just saying that's how he was. Clay, meanwhile, had a short stint as a police officer, but was fired after only a year for reasons not disclosed by the sheriff's office. He went from job to job, not able to keep a steady job down or provide for the family. Jacque finally gave birth, and to everyone's surprise, she had triplets. After the birth of his children, Clay was still struggling to keep down a job. He would spend his days watching TV and letting Jacque do all of the work raising the kids. Jacque, concerned about money, was able to land a job at an insurance firm as a manager in what was a well-paying job. This secured the family's financial situation, and Jacque found herself working long hours to make ends meet. Clay, however, continued to not help at all and expected Jacque to come home after work, cook, clean, and get the kids ready for bed. Jacque's family began to take notice and questioned her about his unwillingness to help. She would often brush it aside and make an excuse for his behavior, but she knew she couldn't keep going like this. Several years had passed of this unbearable lifestyle, and Jacque set a plan in motion to end the marriage. As things progressively got worse between herself and Clay, she began to make comments to Clay about ending their marriage. He responded with comments such as, "If I can't have you, I would kill our kids. I will take them for a weekend fishing trip and then tell you they had drowned, so I can see your face." It was at this point Jacque started noting interactions like this down in her diary. She even contacted her family, who had already had reservations about Clay, and advised them of the situation. Clay wasn't able to provide, and they had to move out of their family home. Her sister Cheryl and her husband Bob were only too happy to take her, and her children, who were 5 years old now, into their home. Clay decided to move an hour away to Jackson. This was Jacque's chance to settle the divorce and move on with the next chapter in her life. Clay, however, was not going to make it that easy. Jacque had agreed to meet Clay at her attorney's office to discuss the divorce. She phoned her sister shortly after the meeting, advising her that everything went well and she would finish up and head home. 3 hours passed by, and Jacque's sister Cheryl started calling her phone to find out where she was, but there was no answer. She started ringing non-stop, but still nothing. Cheryl called Clay. First time, no answer. Second time, no answer. On the third attempt, Clay told her he hadn't seen her since the meeting and that she likely went out to get something to eat. This sent off alarm bells to Cheryl, who didn't believe Clay and immediately contacted police. She claimed straight away that Clay had done something to her sister and urged police to follow up on her claim. Police got involved and spoke with Clay, who denied any involvement. Days started ticking past with no sign of Jacque. There was a consensus from the community that he had played a role in her disappearance. However, there was no evidence to support it.
Dozens of officers are now working this case. The Cape Girardeau Bollinger County Major Case Squad is investigating several leads. No one believes that this mother of 3 would just walk away from her children.
Hundreds of volunteers scoured the surrounding areas, looking for any signs of her in blistering heat. While there were no signs of the missing woman, They did manage to find her vehicle, abandoned on the interstate with one punctured tire. The authorities immediately called Clay to let him know, but he responded by telling them he needed a lawyer, which raised suspicions. Someone he was supposed to care about was missing. Her vehicle was found, and his response was to law enforcement was to lawyer up. A warrant was obtained for Jackie's vehicle, along with Clay's truck. Inside of Jackie's vehicle, they uncovered blood, and the same blood was found inside of Clay's truck. Remarkably, it turned out to be fish blood that Clay had put there, which he filmed doing on his cell phone. It was a test for law enforcement, as he later put it, to see if they could do their job properly. A warrant was also issued for Clay's home. Investigators found the hallway carpet missing and what appeared to be blood on the walls of the hallway. After DNA analysis, it was confirmed that the blood belonged to Jacque. The investigators now shifted into trying to locate her body. They started building a timeline of her movements. At around 11 o'clock, she can be seen meeting with Clay at a drugstore. Some 2 hours later, she was captured on a drive-through ATM camera in what is shockingly the last video of her ever seen alive. Clay, however, was captured on camera hours after the meeting with Jacque at a car wash, with a trash can in the back of his pickup and towing a trailer. He appears to be wearing a lighter-colored shirt and taking particular care to clean one section of the boat thoroughly, which investigators suspected was blood. Several days had passed since Jackie's disappearance, and detectives convinced Clay to come in for a formal interview. He brushed off the blood in the hallway as a minor kitchen accident. He claimed Jacque had hit her nose, and it started bleeding, leaving the blood in his hallway. At this time, investigators didn't have enough evidence or a body, so they had to let Clay go. Detectives monitored Clay's every movement, but he was aware of people following him and would actively avoid them. He was even observed driving by Jackie's parents' house screaming abuse, and that they won't find anything on him. Investigators had since learned that Clay had threatened Cheryl, Jackie's sister's life, which enabled them to arrest him. Clay still protested his innocence in regards to Jacque while walking into court to defend himself against the federal threatening life charge.
I just don't know what to say yet. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. We're all just sad. It's just sad on both sides of the fence here.
And still want to let people know that you didn't have anything to do with what's going on here, and you want what everyone else wants. You want to find your wife.
For sure, yeah. We want her to come home alive, and I still.
Okay.
He was convicted of the charge and sentenced to 5 years in prison. 2 years had passed of his 5-year sentence, and prosecutors had brought a first-degree murder and tampering with evidence charge against Clay. They felt they had enough circumstantial evidence, but not having a body to present to the jury would hurt their case. They came together and offered a deal to Clay: a second-degree murder charge and 20 years in prison in return for Jackie's location. He jumped at the chance, knowing he had a chance to get out again one day and resume his life. Clay took investigators to Devil Island, which was a small boat trip across the Mississippi River, and to the location he disposed of the body. The video of him cleaning his boat was even more damning now. They located her body in a shallow grave, covered with fertilizer. The hunt for Jacque was over.
Good evening, everyone. It's the news many longed for, but at the same time didn't want to hear. The remains of Jacque Waller have been found.
In a one-paragraph press release, the Cape Girardeau County prosecutor ended the speculation. Earlier this week, investigators found the remains of Jacque Waller. Crews have been looking for her since she was last seen alive by her estranged husband, Clay Waller, in June of 2011.
Clay still had one more task to fulfill as part of his plea agreement. He had to confess to the killing and divulge the details of what happened. "I had warned her," Clay stated, confessing that a year earlier, when Jacque talked of breaking up, he said it would be a bad idea. Investigators then asked Clay when he dug the hole to bury her in, which he admitted he dug the previous day. He stuck to his statement of Jackie hitting her nose, causing it to bleed in the hallway. She then began to argue with Clay about the divorce, stating he would never see his kids again. Clay states this was the point of no return. He says he never intended to kill his wife. However, having dug a hole the previous day, it makes that rather hard to believe. He told investigators that he slapped her and then held his forearm over her neck until she stopped breathing. The autopsy would disprove this theory, however, as Jackie sustained multiple head and face fractures, consistent with a blunt object. Even when given a golden opportunity to tell the truth, it seems that Clay couldn't even do that right. He had admitted to killing Jackie, although he still portrayed himself as a victim in this situation. The plea deal he struck with the state meant he would serve a maximum of 20 years in prison. Or would he? He had admitted he dug his wife's grave the day before on Devil Island, which is on the Illinois side of the Mississippi River. Clay then returned to Missouri to meet with Jackie and ultimately take her life. As it turns out, there is an obscure domestic violence act that is not commonly known about. What Clay did was classed as domestic interstate battery, and prosecutors intended to use it against him. His premeditated actions of intending to commit domestic violence while traveling across state lines was a federal offense, with a maximum sentence of 35 years. He had been telling other inmates in prison, while his trial was ongoing, how lightly he got off, being offered 20 years, but his smug demeanor just fell apart. Clay Waller will now have to serve 55 years in prison. He is scheduled to be released in 2067, and if he makes it to that year, he will be 97 years old. With cases like this one, the people who suffer the most are the family and close friends. This case was no different. Jackie was loved by many people, especially her kids who missed her dearly. As part of victim impact statements, Clay's son Maddox was able to make a statement to his father. The statement made by a young child was just as compelling as all of the evidence brought before the court. Jackie's family can never recover from the depraved actions of Clay Waller. Cheryl, Jackie's sister, has since adopted the triplets and is raising them in a loving environment. Her devotion to her sister, from the start of the case until its completion and beyond, has been unwavering. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. We look forward to bringing you another worst case very soon.